Welcome guys to this video where I'm going to be sharing with you some insights and some experience that should hopefully help you on your way to reducing your cholesterol levels, improving your blood lipids through conservative means such as managing your exercise better, managing your nutrition better. I'm going to be walking you through some of the principles you should bear in mind when it comes to managing those things, and I'm also going to give you a real life example of one of our clients who is successful in completely coming off his blood pressure and cholesterol medication through following these strategies. I hope you find this useful, but as always, make sure that you double check with your physician before implementing any of these strategies. As you maybe know, cholesterol is needed for healthy hormone production and healthy cell functioning, and that's why our body produces it. But as the saying goes, too much of a good thing can actually lead to other issues. And cholesterol, if you have higher numbers of LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, and lower numbers of the HDL, which is the good cholesterol, it can lead to an increased risk of cardiovascular disease and stroke. And for this reason, it's important to understand what things that you can do conservatively to help improve your cholesterol levels without having to rely solely on medication prescribed from your doctor. Before making this video, I wasn't too sure whether to just give you a list of things that you can try, but I thought it might be more interesting actually to share a real life example of one of our clients, Chris, who is a nurse anaesthetist. He came on board to work with us to ultimately lose weight, but also to reduce his reliance on cholesterol medication through proper nutrition and training strategies. I thought it'd be nice to maybe give you an example, like Chris, show you what we did with him that allowed him to see great progress, which will hopefully allow you to potentially implement some of the same things so that you might see some progress with your own health markers at the same time. So for context, Chris, whenever he started working with us, was in his late 40s. He was on cholesterol medication, blood pressure medication, and also a CPAP machine to help his breathing as he slept. And Chris was up and around 250 pounds, and he knew, given that he was a nurse anaesthetist, that he needed to lose weight. He needed to find a better way to manage his training and nutrition to ultimately give him better opportunity to improve his health, and that's why I initially came on board to work with us. So Chris worked with us for a 16-week period of time, and in that period of time he was able to lose in and around 40 pounds in addition to completely coming off his cholesterol medication, which he'd been on for years. His physician was actually quite surprised that the changes that he made in his lifestyle with his training, his nutrition, actually allowed him to be able to come off his cholesterol medication, which he'd been on for many years. In addition to that, he was able to come off and reduce his reliance on his CPAP machine in the evening. And that was just through reducing weight and implementing certain training protocols and certain nutritional protocols, which allowed him to do that. And finally, as we all know, the main thing when it comes to losing weight is actually keeping it off as well. The approach that we taught Chris allowed him to actually keep the weight off. We're still in contact with Chris over a year later, and he still managed to keep the weight off despite having a busy lifestyle, family, kids, etc. So hopefully you guys get some value from this. So let me walk you through the steps and the things that you can implement to potentially see some changes as well. So the first area I want to talk about is the nutritional aspect. And within this aspect, there's three things that you want to be focusing on. So the first thing applies if you're carrying excess body fat. So if you're overweight, naturally as a result of that, you will have higher blood lipids, you will have a worse ratio of cholesterol, and you're ultimately at higher risk of having cardiovascular disease and stroke. So the first thing we need to address is actually getting you to lose weight and lose body fat. The way in which you'll do that from a nutritional standpoint is to go into a calorie deficit. Now you're maybe asking the question, well, how do I know how many calories I need to consume? Very, very simple. All I want you to do is go on Google or use a website called calculator.net, and it'll bring you to a section where you can choose calorie calculators. And within that, there's two options. You can either choose a Harris-Benedict calculator or a Catch-McArdle calculator. Both of them are fine. Catch-McArdle is potentially a little bit more accurate because it takes into account your body fat percentage as well, which is something that the Harris-Benedict calculator doesn't do. So simply go onto one of those calculators, add in the required information that it'll prompt you to add, and that will spit out a calorie target. If you hit that calorie target consistently, you will lose weight because you will be in a calorie deficit. So that's the first thing we need to bear in mind from a nutrition standpoint. If you're overweight, you want to make sure that you're getting into a calorie deficit. So the second thing you can do from a nutritional standpoint is increase the amount of soluble fiber that you're consuming. So this comes from things like oats, beans, certain fruits will have a high amount of soluble fiber as well. And the idea behind this is if you consume soluble fiber, that sits in your intestines, and then it essentially reduces the absorption rate of the cholesterol from the food that you're consuming into your bloodstream, which allows you to essentially pass it in your feces. So increasing the amount of soluble fiber you're consuming is something I would definitely recommend that you do. The American Heart Association recommends anywhere between 5 to 10 grams of soluble fiber, but I would say that it is probably dependent on the amount of food and calories that you're consuming that might have to slightly increase. But as I say, make sure that you're checking with your physician before you implement any big changes to your nutrition. So the third thing you can do underneath this nutritional umbrella is increase the amount of healthy fats that you're consuming. So things along the lines of extra virgin olive oil, avocados, walnuts in particular, flax seeds, things along those lines that will ultimately increase your HDL, which is the good cholesterol, and give you more opportunity to decrease your LDL, which is the bad cholesterol as well. So to summarize that section, if you're overweight, get yourself in a calorie deficit first of all. Secondly, increase the amount of soluble fiber in your diet. And thirdly, increase the amount of healthy fats that you're consuming through your diet as well. The second umbrella I want to talk about is the exercise aspect. Now for Chris, this was an area that he in particular did struggle with because he is a busy individual, he's an orthodontist, he's got a family, he's got kids, and as you guys maybe understand as well, life can sometimes get in the way. So the main thing that we had to establish with him was what's actually going to be realistic, what's he going to be able to stay consistent with. And this is something I talk to my clients about as well, in particular when it comes to exercise, is I would rather you stay imperfectly consistent rather than perfectly inconsistent. Simply meaning I don't need you to be perfect, I need you to be consistent. And even if the exercise routine isn't, totally optimized, you're not training super hard, I'd rather you do that consistently than train super hard, but you're not ultimately able to stay consistent with it. So we could get down a wormhole of talking about the best exercise approach. Do we need to be doing more cardio? Do we need to be doing more resistance-based training? And if so, like what type of resistance-based training? I wouldn't really necessarily focus on that. I would focus on dedicating yourself to at least 3 sessions per week of whatever exercise that you find preferential. Ideally, yes, you could say that you want to have a combination of both the cardiovascular exercise for the cardiovascular benefits naturally, but also resistance-based training to increase your muscle mass and ultimately your metabolic rate as well. So ideally a combination of those two things, 3 times a week would be perfect, but it is really whatever your preference is. The third element I want to talk about then is supplementation. Now, you guys have probably experienced this yourself. I know I have on many occasions, to where you've maybe been speaking to your friend or a family member, and all of a sudden your Instagram or your Facebook or your YouTube, you're bombarded with advertisements for this supplement, for that supplement. Unfortunately, there are a lot of supplements out there that there's not really too much evidence to suggest it's actually effective in achieving the claims that often these supplements claim to have. But for cholesterol management, there is one supplement that can be used to increase your HDL and lower your LDL, your bad cholesterol, and that supplement is fish oils. So in particular, fish oils that have high omega-3. So I would look to potentially include that as part of my supplement regime. I don't think you need necessarily anything else, but adding in a simple omega-3 on a daily basis, in addition to having a good diet, will give you the best opportunity to manage that aspect. The fourth element I want to talk about briefly is lifestyle management, and simply meaning sleep management and stress management. If you have high levels of cortisol as a result of high stress, that'll increase the propensity for you to struggle to lose weight and also reduce your bad cholesterol levels. In addition, if you're not sleeping well, again, it'll affect your performance in the gym, it'll affect your energy output during the day, and overall it'll affect other aspects of your own body's regulation of hormones, etc., which as you maybe know, cholesterol is a hormone, so we've got to make sure that we're giving our body the best opportunity to kind of manage that. So there's a few things you can do to improve your stress and improve your sleep. Naturally, improving your sleep will improve your cortisol and your stress levels anyway, so we'll talk about that first. From a sleep perspective, what I've always found with clients is that they never prioritize it as part of their day. You know, it's a non-priority. They go to sleep when they're tired, or, you know, if they've had a late day, they'll go to sleep later. I think one thing that you can do that will improve your sleep, it'll start to regulate your sleep cycle, is to dedicate an allocated sleep time, similar to maybe what you have whenever you're a kid. You know, you've got a time where your parents tell you you have to be in bed by. That's something that I try and do. It's something my clients do, and they just find that it helps them get off to sleep faster. They have deeper sleep as their body starts to regulate and get used to that sleep cycle. So that'd be the first thing I would do from a sleep side. The second thing you can do from a sleep side is get your essentially room temperature to an optimum temperature. Now, for you individuals that have air conditioning in your house, this can be really easy to achieve. There was a video by Andrew Huberman, who's a very well-known kind of researcher, and the conversation that he had with another individual was that the optimum temperature for a room to be in order for you to get to sleep is 18 degrees Celsius. So that would be something I would look to consider doing if you have the ability to, you know, manage the temperature with air conditioning. And from a stress perspective, now this will vary for everyone, and I'm by no means an expert from this. In this, I can only speak from my own personal experience. I think for me, if I sleep well, I generally feel better as well. If I exercise regularly, although sometimes I don't necessarily want to go to the gym, I've never regretted it afterwards. I generally find that helps me mentally. You know, I feel less stressed as a result of that. And the third thing I've started doing, actually only this year, it's still something I'm trying to be more consistent with, but I've tried to implement some meditation. I don't have the patience to do it myself with no kind of help, so I use an app on my phone called Calm. I think there's other ones as well, but that would maybe be something I would consider. I would implement maybe some meditation, try and exercise more, and ultimately, again, as I say, try and optimize your sleep. Thank you guys for watching this video. I really hope it provided you with some value and some actionable steps that you can take to start to see some progress. And if you did like the video, I would really appreciate if you're able to subscribe. It just shows me that, you know, this video was valuable, and it'll, you know, allow me to essentially make more videos like this, because I know, you know, you guys you're actually benefiting from it. So thanks again for watching, guys, and hope to see you very soon in another one.